Today we're diving into a story. It's really fascinating, but also incredibly sensitive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it revolves around a baby girl, Sophia,
Mm-hmm.
and she was mistakenly implanted in the wrong womb
Wow.
during IVF treatment at a hospital in Israel.
I see.
And what makes this case so interesting, so compelling, is that it's not just about the medical error itself,
Yeah.
but it's about the two families whose lives are really intricately intertwined as a result of this error.
Yeah, I mean, what's captivating about this is that there's no legal precedent in Israel for this. It really forces us to examine, like, what is parenthood?
Right.
Is it just genetics?
Yep.
Or does the bond formed through raising a child, like, carry equal weight?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that really is at the heart of this very complex legal battle. So we have two sets of parents, the genetic parents who initiated the lawsuit
Mm-hmm.
and the parents who actually raised Sophia for the first 2 years of her life. And I mean, just imagine the emotional turmoil on both sides, like grappling with this unexpected and unprecedented situation.
It's almost unimaginable. So in 2022, the parents who were raising Sophia, they got some shocking news during the 7th month of pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
They learned that the baby they were expecting wasn't genetically related to them.
Yeah.
And this discovery, while obviously devastating, ultimately brought this whole IVF error to light.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what that moment must have been like.
Yeah.
And then, in like a further twist, Sophia was actually born with a heart defect,
Right.
which only added to the complexity of the situation.
Absolutely. So after Sophia's birth, the legal battle began, and there were multiple appeals. There was a search to actually locate the genetic parents. And then finally, DNA confirmation happened in September of 2023.
Right.
It was just a very long and arduous process for everyone involved.
Yeah. And just this week, November 24th, 2024, the judge issued his ruling in this landmark case. And what really stood out to me was just the judge's acknowledgement that there was no clear legal roadmap for this situation. He was venturing into uncharted territory.
Yeah, the judge, Elias, he had to draw on legal principles from, like, adoption and surrogacy cases.
Mm-hmm.
But even those didn't perfectly align with the circumstances of Sophia's case. And he explicitly stated that this lack of precedent made his decision incredibly challenging.
So how did he ultimately arrive at his decision? What factors did he consider most heavily?
Well, Judge Elias relied heavily on expert opinions
Mm.
from both social workers and a psychologist.
Okay.
But their recommendations were actually conflicting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the social workers were really focused on, the immediate well-being of Sophia. So they leaned toward keeping her with the parents who had raised her.
Yeah.
They were citing concerns about the potential trauma of separation. And they emphasized, the bond that they had formed.
I mean, that makes sense. Sophia had only ever known those parents. It must have been just incredibly difficult to even consider disrupting that relationship.
Exactly. However, the psychologist had a different perspective. Taking a longer-term view, the psychologist actually advocated for placing Sophia with her genetic parents.
Wow.
Yeah. And the argument there was that the benefits of her growing up with a shared biological history, like potential siblings, a deeper understanding of her genetic heritage, that these things would ultimately outweigh the initial trauma of the separation.
So it was really a clash between prioritizing the immediate emotional well-being of Sophia versus her, potential long-term benefits.
Right.
What a difficult decision for the judge.
Yeah, it truly was. And ultimately, Judge Elias sided with the psychologist's perspective. He believed that the benefits of Sophia growing up with her genetic family would be, the best thing in the long run, even though it means a significant disruption in her life.
It's a decision that I'm sure brought relief to some and heartbreak to others. What I found very interesting was that the judge observed that the genetic parents might be better equipped to facilitate a future relationship between Sophia and the parents who raised her.
Yeah, that's a good point. Judge Elias noted that the genetic parents, they kind of lack that direct emotional entanglement.
Right.
So they might have a greater capacity for, like, understanding and facilitating that relationship.
Yeah.
It's a very nuanced perspective that acknowledges the complexities of the situation.
Yeah. And it speaks to the judge's desire to find a solution that benefits Sophia, long term, while still acknowledging the important role that the raising parents played.
Absolutely. I think this case is just such a powerful reminder that even in the face of extraordinary circumstances, the legal system is trying to prioritize the well-being of the child above all else.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with so many questions about what happens next.
Yeah.
How will this transition unfold? What does the future hold for Sophia? And these two families forever linked by this extraordinary case.
Right.
So where does this landmark decision leave everyone involved? Like, what are the immediate next steps for Sophia and the two families?
Well, the most immediate outcome is that Sophia will be transferred to the care of her genetic parents.
I can imagine that transition isn't going to be easy,
Yeah.
especially given that Sophia is still so young.
Yeah, you're right. To minimize the trauma of this transition, Judge Elias mandated that social services create and oversee a structured plan.
Okay.
And this plan aims to gradually introduce Sophia to her genetic parents while also making sure her emotional needs are met every step of the way.
So it sounds like they're really trying to strike a very delicate balance, like moving forward while also acknowledging that bond she has with the parents who raised her.
Exactly. And one of the most fascinating aspects of this whole case and Judge Elias's reasoning is that emphasis on transparency. He specifically highlighted the importance of Sophia learning the truth about her origins.
Oh, wow.
In an age-appropriate way, of course.
That must be an incredibly sensitive and challenging task. Like, how do you explain this complex situation to a child?
There's no doubt about it. The judge actually offered some guidance on the narrative that should be presented to Sophia. He stressed that, it should be framed as a mistake that was corrected, rather than a deliberate separation from the parents she knew.
So it's not just about physically moving her to a new home.
Right.
It's also about creating this whole narrative,
Yeah.
a narrative that helps her to understand her story
Exactly.
in a healthy and positive way.
And this approach really highlights the important role of therapy and open communication in helping Sophia navigate this complex identity as she grows. It underscores that this isn't just a legal matter, it's deeply personal.
Yeah.
It's an emotional journey for everyone.
And where do the parents who raised Sophia, where do they fit into this picture going forward?
That's a crucial question, and thankfully the judge didn't overlook their significance in Sophia's life. He recommended that she maintain some form of contact with them, acknowledging the love and care that they provided, and emphasizing that they are not villains in this story.
I think that's so important. It'd be really easy to just paint them as antagonists.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't serve anyone's best interests,
Right.
least of all Sophia's.
I agree. The goal is to foster the supportive environment where Sophia can thrive, while maintaining connections to both sets of parents.
It's about building bridges, not burning them.
Exactly.
This case really forces us to confront some fundamental questions about, parenthood in the modern age, with advancements in reproductive technology, IVF, surrogacy, egg and sperm donation. The way we create families is evolving so rapidly.
You've hit the nail on the head. And as these technologies advance, the law often struggles to keep up. This case shows what can happen, the potential complications when our ethical and legal frameworks haven't caught up.
So what steps can we take to, prevent situations like this from arising in the future? Are there ways to mitigate these risks?
I believe there are. This case, it underscores the need for stricter regulations and oversight in reproductive medicine.
Okay.
We need more robust protocols, chain of custody procedures, and maybe even explore technological solutions to track genetic material, throughout the whole IVF process.
So tightening up the systems to ensure absolute certainty when handling genetic material
Exactly.
and really minimize that risk of human error.
Because as we've seen, the consequences of those errors are so far-reaching and painful for everyone, especially the child.
Yeah. It's a sobering reminder that even with the best intentions, mistakes can happen. And when they do in such a sensitive area as this, the impact is profound.
Indeed. This case isn't just about this one incident. It's about all the lives forever changed and the precedent set for future cases.
Yeah.
With these assisted reproductive technologies.
This deep dive has certainly left me with more questions than answers, but it's definitely started a very important conversation.
I agree. It's forced us to confront some uncomfortable truths about, the limitations of our current systems and the need for greater awareness of these increasingly complex family structures.
And in all the legal and ethical debates, we can't lose sight of the human element of this story. These are real people whose lives have been changed by this medical error.
Yeah, the emotional toll on both sets of parents and on Sophia, it's immeasurable. There's no easy solution.
This deep dive, I have to say, has left me feeling pretty heavy, but also with a little glimmer of hope. The judge, despite the lack of clear legal guidance, he made the decision he thought was best. And the social workers are committed to facilitating that transition in a way that, minimizes trauma. and allows Sophia to maintain those connections with both sets of parents.
It really does speak to our resilience, our ability to navigate even the most heartbreaking circumstances.
And on that note, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question. If you were tasked with designing Sophia's transition plan, what would you prioritize? To ensure her well-being in her new family and in her relationship with the parents who raised her? It's a question with no easy answers, but one worth thinking about as we consider the future of family in, this increasingly complex world. Thank you for joining us on this incredibly difficult but undeniably important deep dive. This whole situation really shows how our legal systems, sometimes they're just not equipped to handle the complexities of, modern life. Like, there's no rule book for this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It really exposes the limitations of our legal frameworks, especially when dealing with these really complex family situations that are emerging from all these advancements in reproductive tech.
So how do we even begin to address these gaps? What can we do to, I don't know, maybe prevent future cases like Sophia's from becoming these ethical and legal minefields?
Well, I think a crucial first step is to establish clear laws, specifically addressing the unique challenges posed by, IVF and surrogacy. Remember, the judge in Sophia's case had to rely on principles from adoption law,
Yeah.
which, as we discussed, wasn't a perfect fit.
It felt like he was trying to force a solution where there wasn't one.
Exactly. So clearer laws, definitely. But also, we need better procedures in place to prevent these errors from even happening in the first place.
Right.
Think stricter protocols, more rigorous oversight, maybe even explore technological solutions to track genetic material throughout the entire IVF process, meticulously.
Yeah, that level of precision seems absolutely crucial because as we've seen, once the error occurs, the fallout is it's so painful and complex for everyone.
It is, and the impact, it goes way beyond the immediate families. This case has broader societal implications, raising questions about how we define parenthood, the role of genetics, the rights of children born through these technologies.
It's a lot to unpack. And it's going to take time for society as a whole to really grapple with these evolving issues. But this case, I think, as difficult as it is, has started a really important conversation.
I agree. It's forced us to confront some maybe uncomfortable truths about the limits of our systems and the need for more awareness and understanding of these, complex family structures.
And amidst all the legal stuff and the ethical debates, it's so important that we don't lose sight of the human element. These are real people whose lives have been completely changed by this.
Yes, the emotional toll on everyone involved, especially on Sophia, it's immeasurable. There's no easy solution here.
No. This deep dive, it's definitely left me feeling, I don't know, heavy, but also, I think, with a bit of hope. The judge, even without clear legal guidance, he made what he believed was the best decision for Sophia. And we have social workers who are committed to making that transition as smooth as possible, minimizing trauma, and allowing her to, keep those connections with both sets of parents.
It really is remarkable, isn't it? Our
Yeah.
ability to navigate even the most, challenging and heartbreaking situations.
It is. And on that note, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. If you were the one designing Sophia's transition plan, what would you prioritize? How would you ensure her well-being, both in her new family and in her continued relationship with the parents who raised her? It's a tough question, without easy answers, but it's worth considering as we as a society, move forward in this increasingly complex world.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. It was incredibly difficult, but undeniably important.